Hello, everybody. Got you can see I got my winter stuff ready for some snowboarding for the season. Got my nice winter candle going. It smells nice in here, and we got the fantasy football playoffs. Welcome to SOTLA, State of the League Address, Week 13. So Webstar Production Company, did you guys get my package yet? I sent in the mail. Just wondering. Let me know. So I don't even care about the reviewing last week. I just want to get into looking at the matchups for this week and just talk about that. I mean, we've got 4 big games. Well, we got 2 big games. I mean, the loser bracket doesn't really matter for anything because they're not playing for anything other than pride for staying out of last place. So let's see. We have 2 big games really, but 4 playing in total. We have Boston Nomads and Dusky Daycare getting the buys in the winners bracket and the consolation bracket, otherwise known as the losers bracket. We have Zucktro Scott's Poop and Multiple Score Gathers getting the buy there. So they're not even going to be mentioned this week, so we're not even going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about the 4 games that we do have going on. So that's why I'm not going to talk about this week. I have a feeling it's going to be a long video as is already, so I don't want to get in too much of analyzing that because it doesn't matter. It's all for nothing right now. We have a whole new season right now called the playoffs. So let's see, the 4 games this week. We have the 11 seed and the 10 seed. We have Pratik versus Nick. Nick being the 11, Pratik being the 10 seed in the consolation bracket. Then we have DeNoble, who was able to finally end his big losing streak, and he's playing the number 12 seed Moan. So despite all that, he's got a great matchup. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the losers bracket because it's not that important, let's be honest. So I'm going to get more to the 2 winners bracket games, excuse me, that we have. Number 5 seed Scott versus the number 4 seed Zuck, and then probably undoubtedly the game of the week. We have my team versus Pembroke's team with the 3 and the 6 seed games. So I'm not going to make predictions for the whole bracket. I'm just going to do the week-to-week matchups. I thought that would be easier, given that even if I get 1 game wrong this week, and it throws off all the other predictions, so it doesn't even matter. I can take my prediction for who I think's going to win, but we all know who I'm going to pick, so there's no point in doing that in my opinion. So I'm just going to do a week-to-week matchup and kind of just give my objective opinion on how it goes. Now, I'm going to go more in depth, obviously, with the winners brackets. I'm just going to go quick with the losers brackets just to give them their times. Because to be fair, kind of like how ESPN, does and WNBA games on SportsCenter, even nobody gives a shit. So how I did this, I didn't take projections at all into consideration. You guys are not going to believe me when I say that, but I don't. I was just looking at the matchups itself, so here's what I did. I started each position on each side of the teams, and I compared them, and whichever side had the advantage, I gave an up arrow. If they had a significant advantage, I gave them 2 up arrows. I could have given them 3 up arrows if there was a outstanding advantage, but I don't think I even gave any 3 arrows anywhere. So the first game I want to get to, let's take a look at the 11-10 matchup, which is Nick versus Pratik. So I'm going to go position by position here. And so what I have here is at quarterback, we've got Kyle Orton versus Ben Roethlisberger. So Nick, being the Bills fan that he is, has a Bills quarterback starting here. I think this is easy, taking Roethlisberger versus a perennial backup in Kyle Orton. So I gave +1 to Pratik for having Roethlisberger at receiver. Nick here has DeAndre Hopkins, and he's also got Golden Tate. I mean, Calvin Johnson is back, but let's be honest, that's a little bit of better of a matchup with Emmanuel Sanders, who is doing better, or who is a great receiver, but given that they're running the ball so much with C.J. Anderson, and that he's also got Anquan Bolden, I thought it was an easy +1 on Nick's side for the receivers. We go to the running backs. I mean, Nick's got Marshawn Lynch and Lamar Miller, and we're looking at Pratik's Steven Jackson and Bishop Sankey on 2 pretty mediocre offenses versus two pretty good running backs on Nick's side. So I had to give Nick two double arrows on that side. Giving Nick an advantage right now of 3-1 as far as my picks go. At tight end, I mean, really, unless your tight end's last name is Gronkowski, maybe Julius Thomas as well, then anything's only going to be mediocre or okay at best. I mean, he's got Antonio Gates versus Vernon Davis, which, if you ask anyone, I wouldn't, being a 49ers fan, I wouldn't even know that Vernon Davis was playing on the team this year for how shitty he's been. So Antonio Gates is an easy pick there. Giving Pratik the advantage of tight end. If you go to flex, he's got Percy Harvin, who's been such a disappointment this year. I think we all can agree on that. We thought he'd be a whole lot better. He was originally on my team drafted. Traded him a long time ago. He had a couple good games for the Jets, but I think the last two, maybe even three, have been pretty disappointing. Versus John Brown, who's looking pretty good for considering he's on the Cardinals, who've been struggling a little bit lately, but I still had to give John Brown a little bit of an advantage given how Percy Harvin's been so disappointing this year. Phil Dawson, I gave a plus to Pratik, playing Oakland. I think he's going to get a lot of kicks there. 49ers really struggling in the red zone this season. And then you got the Bills fan with the Bills defense, which is actually not bad, but they're playing Denver this week, and you've got Philadelphia and Seattle, which I think is going to be a probably 10-13 game score there because of those two great defenses. So Pratik wins a defensive battle right there. The score I have is 3-4 in favor of Pratik. So I'm taking Pratik in this matchup, and I'm feeling pretty confident about that. So Pratik moves on, Nick gets eliminated, and let's go to the next game where we have the 9-12 matchup, and that's going to be DeNoble versus Moan. So DeNoble, like I said, drew a pretty good matchup. Now Moan doesn't even have a roster put up, so I kind of assembled one of who I think would be starting. If you look at Matt Stafford, who Moan has, versus Andrew Luck for the Bill Belichick's, Andrew Luck far and away, plus 2 arrows on that. He's been the number 1 fantasy player this year, I believe, and I confirmed that by just clicking on him. What do we go to next? Wide receiver. Bill Belichick's have Julian Edelman. He's and he's got Alshon Jeffrey, who's actually been pretty good. But I don't think Moan has anyone. He's got Roddy White, Keenan Allen, Andre Johnson, all pretty disappointing overall. Given that Alshon Jeffrey is so much better than any of those names I just gave, I gave +2. Actually, +2. I gave +2. So even when we go to running back, he's got LaShawn McCoy, who's totally been tearing it up the last few games as of late. So there's a huge advantage there. I wish Scott's probably wishing that had it happened all season. However, he's been disappointing pretty much the first 10 weeks of the season, and that's kind of why he's where he is right now, having the first overall pick. Anyway, I'm giving him a big advantage at running back too, given who Moan has for running backs, and I didn't even go further than that because it's already over. This is going to be Belichick's are going to walk right through this, and it's not even going to be close. So those are the 2 picks I have. Excuse me, Pratik in the first game, and then the second game I've got DeNoble on a landslide. So let's go to the winners bracket. We're already at 8 minutes. It's going to be a long video, just like I said. So we're going to analyze these a little bit more detail here. We're looking at Scott versus Zuck, and this is an interesting matchup because I thought these are the 2 weaker teams. I thought Pembroke and I have a tough matchup, but if you also look, they play Webster's team next, so I think these guys actually had a pretty good draw because even though these guys are probably the weakest 2 teams in the playoffs, they've got a pretty good matchup for the next game if they're able to win. So we moved to quarterback. We got Drew Brees and Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to give the advantage to Drew Brees, +1 arrow. He's a top 5 fantasy player. I think he's actually 5th exactly. So I got the +1 for Scott's team there versus Tannehill. Even though he's been doing well of late, it's Brees has been tearing it up the last 2 weeks. At wide receiver, we got Steve Smith Sr. and Marcus Colston. I don't even know if Steve Smith Sr., he's got 1 good game and looks like the last 6 or 7 weeks. He's burnt out. He had a good start of the season. They figured him out, and the Rectum Blasters have Macklin and Calvin Johnson. I mean, this wasn't even close, in my opinion. I gave 2 stars. I don't even know if Reggie Wayne is the number 2, but it looks like he actually just switched him as I was doing my prepping here, he switched Marcus Colston there. But regardless, I still gave 2 arrows. Marcus Colston is an average receiver, but he's like an Anquan Bolden in my mind. He's just there. So anyway, double advantage to Zuck at the wide receiver position. Moving on to the running backs, where you got Alfred Morris, Dan Heron, or Heron. I still don't even know how to say that. You got Calvin Johnson, Gio Bernard, Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon, I don't even know if he's gonna play. I think Heron makes a nice Ahmad Bradshaw as of late as his replacement, so I gave a +1 arrow to Scott's team. So right here, so far through the running backs, receivers, and quarterbacks, we got pretty much an even matchup. We go to the tight ends position. Greg Olsen, who's been about average, considering how bad the Panthers are. But then we got Jimmy Graham, who actually did nothing. So these guys are actually playing each other. I just realized. Jimmy Graham got 0 points last week. Given how bad the offense of Carolina is and how bad the defense of New Orleans is, I think Greg Olsen and Jimmy Graham are both going to have a pretty good game. I would still pick Jimmy Graham as a +1 on that matchup. Excuse me, so I'm giving it to him. The kicker position, they looked pretty even to me. I mean, Vinatieri of the Colts against Cleveland, Blair Walsh against the Jets. With kickers, I think this is about even. I'm just going to leave it at that, go even. If you look at the defense position, though, I think this is where Scott made that final advantage. He's got St. Louis. I know they're playing Colt McCoy, who looked pretty good, but it's still Washington. They're just Washington. New Orleans is a pretty bad defense. I know they're playing Carolina, who turns the ball over, gets sacked a whole lot, but it's still the New Orleans defense is, I don't even think they're top 25 in the league. You've got St. Louis, who is a pretty good defense, especially the last 3 weeks if you look at the way they played. So I gave the advantage to St. Louis, and with that, I actually am going to go with Scott in this matchup versus Zuck's team. Excuse me. And that's my pick here. And there's one of the games we've got, and then we're moving on to the game of the week. We've got my team, and we've got Pembroke's team. So I'm going to pull up that matchup right here. Game of the week. I don't think I've seen projections this high in a while again for 2 teams all season. So I think we go to the league actually and look at the final scoring. Trying to see how the final scoring ended. It won't show me. I think I was number 1 and Pembroke was either 2 or 3. But anyway, this is going to be a big shootout, everybody. Absolutely. So if we start at every position here, starting at quarterback, we have Aaron Rodgers going against Atlanta. We've got Tony Romo against Chicago, and I think that Chicago. Actually, I want to get to one thing here. I can't believe this matchup happened, being that these two guys are so high scoring, and then we've got those other 2 games where they're both projected about 95 points or something like that. I think Scott's actually a little higher now, but anyway, I don't make the rules. I do make the rules, but I'm going to follow them too. All right, quarterback. That Chicago Dallas game tonight is going to be a freaking shootout. I'm recording it just as it's about to start, so I don't know what's happened yet. But Tony Romo in December, I think he's going to make some bum play in the 4th quarter and mess it up. And it's Aaron Rodgers. He's been playing like an MVP. I gave the advantage to Aaron Rodgers for that. At quarterback, we moved to receiver. I'm trying to speed this up now a little bit. I realize I'm taking a lot of time. At receiver now, I think this is a little bit misleading on these matchups. If you actually look at the stats, Brandon Marshall and Mike Wallace are the exact same receiver. Statistically, I think Brandon Marshall has 1 extra touchdown than him, and that's about it. But T.Y. Hilton is going to be too fast for Joe Hayden, but still you've got Demaryius Thomas, who's a top 3 wide receiver. So I gave the advantage at wide receiver to Pembroke's team. So now we're even at 1. Move on to the running backs. We got Jamal Charles playing Arizona. That's a pretty tough matchup with that defense there. I think Forte's he's going to get a lot of dump passes because of the rush that Dallas is going to bring him. So he's going to get a lot of dumps to Matt Forte. As long as Arian Foster stays healthy, he's playing against Jacksonville. He's going to run all over him. I've got Mark Ingram, but Kyrie Robinson's coming back, so I think it's a little bit of a a disadvantage there. Because of that, I'm giving Pembroke 2 advantage arrows on the running back side because of the matchup in this situation. Where normally I would probably give them an even. So I gave Pembroke 2 arrows on that. We moved to the tight end. We got Travis Kelce, who's actually been doing halfway decent here because Alex Smith is scared to throw to wide receivers. So he hasn't been doing bad, but like I said, I think this defense in Dallas is going to have a lot of pressure on Cutler. He's going to have a lot of dump passes to the tight ends and Matt Forte, as I just said. So I think Martellus Bennett's going to have a good game here, better than Travis Kelce will. So I gave an advantage at tight end to my team here. So let's see, we've got it 3-2 in favor of Pembroke. And then we go to the flex position, Kelvin Benjamin, Justin Forsett. Justin Forsett has been a great surprise this season. I think everyone will agree. He's playing Miami, who's actually a mediocre run defense, very good against the pass. So I'm expecting Justin Forsett to have a good game there. Whereas Kelvin Benjamin, actually, last time they played New Orleans, I believe he scored 1.8 points. So I don't think he'll necessarily do that bad, but I'm definitely going to still give the advantage to Justin Forsett. He's missed practice, but the reports have been saying that that's just because of more for rest rather than an actual injury. If we move to the kicker, I mean, we got Hauschka and Crosby. I think they're going to be about even. I mean, Hauschka's going to kick some field goals because I think they're going to struggle to score points in that game. And that's really valuable for a kicker, but I also think Mason Crosby is going to kick 10 extra points probably against Atlanta. So I'm going to give the kicker is going to be about even. And then when we look at the defense, Minnesota's been actually pretty good the last, well, at least last game. They played Chicago and Green Bay before that, but the Jets can't move the ball, let's be honest. I think Minnesota's going to have a good game, but I also think Houston's going to have an even better game against Jacksonville. J.J. Watt's going to absolutely tear them up. I wouldn't be surprised if they score a defensive touchdown, maybe even 2, but Blake Bortles is going to throw a couple picks. He's not going to be able to handle that pressure. He's a rookie QB going against that tough defense. I gave an advantage to my team for defense. I know you guys are probably screaming at me right now because that means I picked my team to beat Pembroke. But that's the matchup. I told you guys what I think, and I truly believe that. I know you guys, I tried to be pretty objective about this. I think I'm being fair with my analysis. So you guys can all screw yourselves because that's how I think that's going to crumble. So I picked Scott to win the first matchup in the first game. Then I'm picking myself over Pembroke. You guys can think what you want. But that's how I think it's going to go. So the game's just about to start, so I'm going to load this puppy up for you guys to watch maybe at halftime or for those of you, or some of you probably weren't going to watch it at all. But anyway, that's how I think it is. Good luck to everyone that's in the playoffs. If you have a bye, sit tight and enjoy football this week without any stress. And Pembroke, I hope you suck because I'm going to be rooting against you. And all right, that's about it. So everyone have a good week. Commissioner out.